everyone, this is Fantasy-esque and welcome back to the Vampire Amazon Challenge in The Sims 4. We are following the reign of Queen Darling Cloudy Snarl, who has recently granted her second-born daughter the title of Crown Princess, and betrothed her to Lord Yorick. But while Nydia outwardly mourns the loss of her sister, there are darker things she harbors in her heart, like the truth of Zara's death and her own hand in it. She knows Lady Shannon is the murderer, but refuses to speak of it to anyone. After all, everyone has more or less benefited from the demise of her tyrannical sister. We are picking up at almost 5 a.m. on Monday with Queen Darling. Let's go through the whims and see what is continuing to happen in the castle. I am just really sad right now because when I look at Zara, guys, my heart just, I was so distraught over the death of Zara, which I still am, but seeing what her death has done to him, it just makes me want to cry. But okay, let's see. Queen Darling wants to freshen up in the mirror. So she is going into her chambers to do that. Oh, well, I mean, yeah, she might as well do that in her own chambers, even though Zuleika's in there. With Queen Darling, guys, she actually has, if we go into her traits, in terms of the kind of grief or her way of coping with grief, she's holding it together. That's kind of her grief type. So I think the queen reverting back to her old behaviors, which is basically feeling really good about herself and pretending like everything's okay, that's her way of coming to terms with the fact that she has lost her oldest child. And this is the first loss that they have experienced with the younger generation, right? These aren't ladies that were recruited and came into court. These were youngsters who were born of the queen and our lady. So I think she is trying her best to keep it together. And in terms of everyone else, I think Nimwe's really sad. She has the blues grief. Now, Nydia doesn't even, she's not even mourning, guys. She's not even mourning. I'm telling you, she feels like zero amount of guilt over the death of her sister. Zuleika is also quite sad. She has the blues grief. I think for Zuleika, the loss of an enemy that took up such a big part of her life is quite, I think, mind-altering, and even though this has kind of opened the possibilities of her future and it's ensured her safety, it is still something that's very hard to come to terms with, because I don't think anyone, especially Zuleika, ever imagined a life where Zara was not hanging over her like an axe, you know? So there's that. Let's see, Caleb, Shannon. Now Akira, she's actually got the anger grief. So this is her way of grieving, is being angry over what's happened. We know that Akira was quite close to Zara, just as she was with her daughter, and she did not like the feud between the two of them, but she did spend some time kind of begging Zara to reconsider and not do this. Obviously, Zara never listened to her, but I think that Akira is mad at the fact that it had to come to Zara's death for her daughter to be given kind of a fair shot at life. Obviously, she doesn't know the circumstances specifically around Zara's death, but I think Zara, in Akira's mind, was a representation of the queen and court that she had dedicated her life to serving, and then of course she had her loyalty to her family, which was her daughter Zuleika, and I think those two parts of Akira have always been clashing, and she tried her best to balance those relationships. In the end, obviously she would have chosen her daughter over Zara, but I think she's still mad at the fact that she can only be happy about her daughter's survival, or over her daughter's survival, because Zara has died. So everyone's coping with their grief in very different ways. Okay, Vampyre. Oh, she fell asleep in the bath. Well, if you want to finish up your bath, that would be actually quite nice. Finish up. Take your bath. No, take your bath. Have a good bath. I feel like I never see anyone using these tubs in the rooms I have down here, but oh well. It's nice to know that someone's using it. And this is her mother's chamber, so that makes a lot of sense. I am so glad that I went and actually put the portraits of the ladies in the different rooms, because now I can tell which room belongs to who. And it makes so much sense that Vampyre is taking a bath in her mother's quarters. That does make sense, right? So we do have Shannon's room over here. We have Akira's room next to her. And then we have Lilith over here and Caleb. So now, when we have our vampires going into each other's rooms, we'll know exactly whose room they're in, and maybe it'll make a whole lot more sense to me. But she wants to chat with Dame Zuleika. So let's go to Zuleika and have a chat with her. I think Vampyre probably wants to quietly congratulate Zuleika in the fact that now she doesn't have to worry about her life or her future, and she and Zaro can have finally a relationship that's not going to be interrupted or kind of shaken about by Zara. So she's gonna go and have that conversation with Zuleika, and I think when she's having that conversation with Zuleika, Vampyre might notice that Zuleika's talking to her in a bit of a strange way. Like, she's saying some things that is not entirely an accusation, and it's nothing, like, she's not saying anything out of the ordinary, but the way she's saying certain things makes Vampyre feel as though Zuleika is not feeling quite right. Like, she's not feeling normal about something, but she can't quite put her finger on it. Now, for Vampyre's part in the death of Zara, personally, I feel as though Vampyre herself did not have an active role in Zara's death. I do feel like she knows what her mother did, but she loves her mother so much that she is covering for her. I think that's what Vampyre would do. She would cover for what she suspects her mother has done, because she loves her mother so much and she wants her mother to be able to achieve all of her dreams, because she feels as though that's the only way she's gonna get her mother's attention. Or maybe if her mother fulfills her dreams, she'll finally look at Vampyre or have time for her. So that's unfortunate. I definitely can see Vampyre being a bit of a fallen angel who starts off so bright and innocent and then takes a dark path, like, as she gets older. Someone who gets corrupted and twisted, which is unfortunate. Now, Nimue wants to take a nap, so I'm just gonna send her back to take a nap. But we know that she's got the blues grief. This is her way of getting over her sister's death, is just trying to pass time. And I could almost see Nimue maybe trying to... I mean, she was never friends with Zara, and she had a bad compatibility with her. But Zara was still her older sister, and she was kind of an unshakable character in the royal family that nobody thought would ever go. If anything, Nimue had imagined maybe herself or Nydia somehow passing away or something happening to them, but Zara was like the sun. She never imagined that Zara would never not be there. So the fact that she isn't a part of this landscape anymore is very kind of disconcerting and scary, because we know how much Nimue doesn't like getting involved in politics and the royal family, even though she is literally political and a member of the royal family. I think she's worried that if Zara died so easily and the crown passed in Nydia so easily, what if it happens to her? What if the same thing happens to Nydia, and Nydia passes only for the crown and the title of heiress to then become Nimue? Like, that would be her nightmare. So I don't think she wants that, and she's very, very terrified by everything that's happened. Nydia wants to enthuse about Thrill of the Steel, so let's see who she has the closest relationship with. She has a 51 with Lady Lilith, a 78 with Nimue, a 33 with Caleb, a 76 with Zuleika, a 63 with Akira, a 98 with Shannon, a 27 with Vampyre, and a 14 with Darling. Okay, she's gonna go right up to Shannon, and she's gonna enthuse about Thrill of the Steel. So the last time I think Nydia had this particular interaction, or the want for this interaction, she had it twice before that I remember vividly. The first one was when we had Zuleika getting betrothed to Zoro, and she was basically telling Zuleika, like, you're a genius for stealing Zoro from Zara. And then she kind of had this whim when we had the royal betrothal between Zara and Yorick, because she wanted to tell Zara she's such a genius for stealing Yorick from Zuleika. Now she's wanting to go to Shannon and I think admit to Shannon, or admit to someone, that she has unwittingly, without lifting a finger, she has managed to steal the crown and the betrothed from her sister Zara. And she knows that out of everyone, Shannon is not going to interpret her the wrong way, because obviously Shannon's feelings on the matter are the same as Nydia. Her feelings on the matter basically are not Zara friendly. So I can see out of everyone, Nydia would be kind of keeping like a secondary face, because I've said multiple times I feel like she's two-faced. She would kind of be keeping a certain image in front of others, but in front of Shannon, whose kind of secret she knows, right? Even though Shannon's unaware, Nydia knows her secret, that she's the murderer, and so she would feel comfortable showing a little bit of her true colors to Shannon, and the fact that they're so close. And then we have Zuleika, who is talking to Yorick. And guys, Zuleika's relationship with Zoro is in the red. There was a time when they were friends. I'm pretty sure when Zara was alive, they had managed to get a friendship going, and it has gone down into the red. Now, I feel like when Zuleika looks at Zoro, she does not like the immortal that he's become. She does not like the type of vampire that Zoro has become, because to her, he looks like a broken person. And this is so sad. But Zuleika, she obviously saw Zoro growing up. They were quite close in age. And Zoro started off as such a kind-hearted, like a very bright young boy who was very sweet and happy. And as he's gotten older, he's gotten unstable, and from there, I think he's been tested by everything that happened with Zara and just being in the court. But I think his twin sister Zara, everything she did, even her death, has ravaged him so much that it has absolutely destroyed him as a person. And this is the person that Zuleika is going to become married to, she's going to end up with. And I don't think that it is the future Zuleika saw for herself. And so she does not like the person Zara's become. And Zara's death has definitely strained their relationship. I mean, you would think that now that they don't have Zara hovering over them, things would get better. And we know that Zoro is trying. We worked out in the last episode that, you know, he is trying to become better for Zuleika, but I think a large part of himself is so destroyed that the part that's trying can't get through to Zuleika. And Zuleika can't get over the side of him that has been destroyed, or that is broken. Which makes me so, so sad. And I think especially whenever Zuleika looks at Yorick, sees how happy Yorick is and everything that's going on with him, and the match between Yorick and Nydia, even more so, I feel like she can't get over the fact that Yorick was always the ideal marriage partner for her. He seems to be going in the direction that she's always kind of wanted for herself and her partner, and Zoro's falling more and more behind. But I do feel as though, I mean, she wants to cook an excellent meal. I do feel as though, in her own way, Zuleika is trying to I think, comfort Zorro. So even though Zorro is disappointing her, she does want to try and comfort him in the way she knows how, which is, cooking something nice and comfortable. So let's go ahead and maybe we'll make some mac and cheese. We'll make some mac and cheese and kind of just lay it out in case anyone wants to eat. Typically the vampires don't, but I think food for them is a little bit like dessert. It's something extra that they might choose to have if they want to, just for the feeling of something nice and warm in their stomach. But she's gonna, and this is also probably a way for her to think. Just think things through, focus on something, process her emotions. That's probably what's going on with Zuleika. So okay, she's done with that. I'll complete this whim, and I think I've completed the other whims as well. That's what we have going on, guys, with the members of the Coven. But the current state of the Coven honestly has me very, very sad. While Nydia's dark heart continued to harbor secrets of its own, it seemed as though Cloudy Snarl, the bloodline deity, was looking over the royal family, and she passed judgment on Crown Princess Nydia for conspiring against her own blood and killing the rightful heir to the throne. Yes, she had succeeded in scheming for everything that belonged to Zara, but Cloudy Snarl didn't deem her worthy enough to keep any of it. Crown Princess Nydia burned in the sun, dying alone without any witness. Guys, I am so shook right now. I don't even know what to say. After recording the last section, I literally went to sleep and I'm continuing the morning after. I needed the whole night to process what just happened. Nydia was Crown Princess for 2 episodes. 2 episodes. And she died. We were all, mentally prepared for her to be the next queen. I actually took my Sims out hunting, and everyone flocked inside. I guess Nydia was outside for some reason. She wasn't even sword fighting. She was just kind of standing outside. But I had autonomy on, and I was actually focused on hunting with the other vampires, getting them to drink. And I was in the middle of one of the ladies when I got dragged over to Nydia, and she was by herself, burning out in the sun. Now, the intriguing thing is that earlier in the episode, I was just rambling on about how it's Nimwe's worst nightmare to become Crown Princess. If something happens to Nydia, she's gonna have to take up the mantle as the last remaining princess. And the fact that it happened, I am mind blown right now. So, yeah, things have changed. I feel terrible for Yorick because he was actually happy with Nydia, and I don't think they even took the time really to enjoy the fact that they were betrothed or anything like that. In fact, I had a whole different storyline that I thought was gonna pan out with Nydia and her involvement in Zara's murder and everything, but I guess the plan has changed. The fascinating thing is that when Zara died, everyone was kind of talking in the court about it being divine judgment that was passed down on Zara for being tyrannical, when we know that it wasn't the truth, that Shannon had murdered Zara. But in Nydia's case, it was divine intervention from the royal bloodline deity Cloudy Snarl, who basically found Nydia to be unworthy. She felt as though Nydia had stolen everything from Zara. She'd plotted against her own blood, her own sister, and even though she was able to kind of steal everything that Zara ever had in her life, she was not seen as worthy enough to keep any of it. So Cloudy Snarl passed divine judgment on her and took her life. And intriguingly enough, the time at which Nydia died was at around 7 p.m. It was after 7 p.m. which if you think about it, that's around the time when the sun is going down or we're transitioning into night, so we typically never have to be worried about anyone catching on fire. But the fact that right at the end of the day is when Nydia died, I feel like all this time, and like nobody was around her at all. No one was around her, no one even witnessed her dying, so that leads me to believe that it was, in fact, divine judgment. That is how I am interpreting her death and her situation. So it's like one tragedy on top of another. Poor Nimue is now the last remaining princess and is going to be our crown princess. And I honestly, at this point, I wasn't worried about Nydia surviving or not. That hadn't even crossed my mind. But the rate at which our princesses are dying, I am hoping that Nimue does survive. However, guys, if for some reason Nimue does not survive, then the challenge continues. I, within my rules, do have backup plans for if the current royal family dies out. I mean, yes, the whole idea or the goal is to continue our royal bloodlines, but the challenge does not end with the end of the royal family. Basically, if the current dynasty dies out, then one of the noble lines will rise to become the new royal dynasty. So her family's future, like the Cloudy Snull legacy, is now on Nimue's head. And if Nimue dies, then her royal family, her dynasty, the Cloudy Snull dynasty, is going to end, and a new one will rise from among the noble bloodlines. But obviously, that is not the goal. Nimue needs to try and make sure that she survives, and I find it so fascinating that out of all of her daughters, ever since Nimue became a teen, the youngest became a teen and entered the main court, Queen Darling has always felt that Nimue was her preferred heir over Zara and over Nydia. I think she liked Nydia. I mean, she has good compatibility. She had a 13 and a 13. Okay, she had equal amount of relationship with Nydia and Zara, but she's always wanted Nimue. She's always felt that Nimue was the heir she would have chosen if Nimue hadn't been born the youngest, and if they didn't have this system of the oldest one getting the title. And we have seen that she has continuously tried to drag Nimue into matters of court to try and keep her engaged in terms of what's happening. And Nimue has been trying to be kind of distant and remove herself from all of that, but no, her mother has been dragging her into these matters, and she's been wanting every single one of her princesses to be prepared. For what? Well, now we know. Because even though Nimue is the youngest, now she is the crown princess. So guys, that's a lot of stuff that happened. I honestly don't even know how to wrap my head around the unexpectedness of it all. But another part of me is actually finding all of this very exciting. I feel like as the season is progressing and ending, things are escalating, the stakes are getting higher, and it's so dramatic. It's so drama-filled. I love it. So okay, we will most likely have Zuleika's birthday in the next episode. Honestly, if one of my girls at this point reach immortality, I'm going to be very happy. And then Nimue's birthday, I'm worried, is all the way there. It's at the end of the first week of autumn, and at this rate, I don't even know if she's going to make it there. I'm very, very concerned about whether or not Nimue is going to make it to the flippin' next Saturday. Not the coming one, the one after. I'm very worried, but I hope she does. I really do hope she does. And the fascinating thing about Zuleika is once she becomes immortal, her birthday is just before the new council is going to be appointed at the beginning of autumn, which means when that time comes, she will actually, as an immortal, get the title of Lady. She'll go from being Dame Zuleika to Lady Zuleika, and then she will be eligible to join the Queen's Council, which is going to be very exciting. So we have some really fun stuff coming up. But okay, guys, with that said and done, I am going to leave off here. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you all next time. Bye bye.